All right, AFC and NFC Championship weekend. The Real Deal presents the NFL Championship Games weekend preview. Let's get it. All right, welcome to another exciting and great episode of The Real Deal, episode 112. I am your host, as always, Courtney Harden. Happy Saturday, January 28th, 11 a.m. It's a little early than I usually do the show, but it's all good. But we have a big sports weekend, and if you are an NFL fan, this is what you've been waiting for. It's the AFC and NFC Championship weekend, the conference championships right before the Super Bowl. So I know everyone is excited. My team is in. My guest team is in. He'll be jumping on in a few minutes. We already got some comments in the chat. So thank you, T-Rod, for jumping on already. I really appreciate it. He said his picks is the Bengals and Eagles. So I love the Eagles pick, but I'm picking the Chiefs. So just right off the top, Chiefs, Eagles. But like I said, I got a great guest coming up. I'm about to bring him on in a couple of minutes. But you can download the show. We are on Roku, BS3 TV, the BS3 TV app on the Roku channel. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can follow the show at Get the Real Deal. If you want to be a guest, hit me up. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Courtney Harden. If you Google The Real Deal, Courtney Harden, you can find it on all podcast and social media platforms. BS3TVLive.com, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you get podcasts, that's where it is. All the episodes are there. The Saturday episodes and all the episodes in between that I do during the week from Zoom. So they're all on my social media as well. But I'm going to bring in my guest. I had to bring a heavy hitter, a guy that he's been on the show many times. He was one of my first guests. I used to be on his network when I had another show on another network. We collaborated on there. But this guy's been, like I said, he's all over the place. He's in the fantasy football community. He has his own network, his own website, podcast network as well. Geoff Lambert, Goingfor2.com, Goingfor2 Live as well. So thank you, Geoff, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it because I know you got to run in a little bit. So it was great to have you on. As I said at the top, you're a 49ers fan. And as me as an Eagles fan, we've known each other for a while now. So a long time, 7-8 years, maybe longer, and everything too. So I appreciate you coming back on the show.
Absolutely, man. Always willing to make time for you, even if I got to run to work straight after this.
Yeah. It is good because it's perfect because you do have, as you as a 49ers fans, the Eagles fan, they're meeting in the NFC Championship. But first, before we get into it, how has the network been, the website? Just had another great fantasy football season. How have your teams did? How'd you do in DFS through this past season?
So it was a great year overall. Website did really well. Podcast network, we continue to expand that. We're going into the off season with at least a show a night every day of the week, including on Sundays. We got a bunch of great new hosts that are jumping in. Some new guys that kind of starting off that want to get into it. So I got them with their own shows now too. Obviously, my thing is to give guys their first opportunity. So some of them are brand new to this whole space, this whole industry. So they're kind of learning the ropes there, but all of them are doing a great job. As far as fantasy goes, I won my home league. I got my trophy sitting right here.
Okay, all right.
My trophy. I don't know if you can see what it says there. It says the Anybody But Geoff trophy because my league doesn't like when I win.
Yes.
So they named the trophy that they want anybody but me to win it, but I won it this year. Great season in DFS too. I have a DFS show on my podcast network as well with Gerson and Tim. They're my two co-hosts, and had a great season. I think we only had 2 weeks that we didn't do well with our picks all season. That's pretty good. So just a great season overall, man.
No doubt. It was good. I had a really good season in my league too. In the podcast like I did, number one seed again, but got bounced out right before the championship once again. And this time I only lost by like 3 points. So it was a battle. So I can't complain. The last time I got blown out in the last one, but twice as the number one seed the last 2 years and get a bye and then come back and lose in the next round.
Ouch.
Yeah. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, do I, use all my energy to try to get the number one seed? Yeah, you do. You want that. But I'm like, dang, if I'm always the number one seed and everybody's always gunning for me, it's like, should I be the number 2, number 3 seed? Just purposely
lose on purpose a few games?
Lose on purpose a couple of weeks, the last 2 weeks. But you know how we do. We can't do that. We're locked in. We set our lineups up and and then we just let it go. So it was that was I think it was I had Justin Herbert and it was a Monday night game against the Colts and he didn't do much of anything. Eckler did, but I needed Herbert to get those last few points. But they were blowing the Colts out that last week, so it's that's what. Let's say that's how it goes. But successful year though, I can't complain. Really successful year. I did really good in DFS. So thanks to your your show, listening to it on Friday nights and setting my lineups up and everything too. So I can't. Yeah, it's been a really good. Even the playoffs too. It's been a really good successful DFS season as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah, love it. So let's get into these games. So let's talk about the NFC. You said we got the Philadelphia Eagles hosting the San Francisco 49ers. These two teams are evenly matched. The Eagles last week blew out the Giants. The 49ers, to me, it was dominance to the Cowboys. The way they just shut down Dak Prescott, even though the game was close, 19-12, but the game was very, very close. But I think the 49ers just overall dominated them, mostly in all phases of the game. But how do you feel about this as a 49ers fan? 49ers now, Brock Purdy having a successful year, playing the last 7 games, doing his thing. Now it goes on the road, hostile environment for the game right before the Super Bowl. What do you think of their chances, and what do you think are the keys for the 49ers to beat the Eagles in Philly?
So, just going to Brock Purdy, I think, going into last week, it was a talk of this is the best defense that Brock Purdy has seen all year with the Dallas Cowboys. And I think early on it showed. I think he looked a little uncomfortable. He couldn't find guys as open as he wanted to. I think Shanahan kind of schemed it up in that first half. That he only had 2 guys in the route. So it was basically 1 read, 2 read. If they're not open, he basically just panicked. So I think second half they made some adjustments and were able to pull that game out there. So I think going into this game, you could say the same thing again. This is the best defense he's faced now, even including the Dallas defense. Obviously, the Eagles, they have like 70 sacks this year.
70 sacks, 70+ sacks,
Yeah, 4 players with double-digit sacks. So, I mean, that's going to be the key right there once again is Brock Purdy not turning the ball over, staying within himself, staying within the offense. And in last week's game, against the Cowboys, I kept yelling at my TV in that first half that they need to stop running the ball outside. They kept running the ball on the edges, and that Dallas Cowboy defense is just too fast for that. We needed to run at them. In the second half, they put Elijah Mitchell in there. They ran at them, and he averaged over 5 yards per carry. I think it's the same game plan this week. I think as long as Elijah Mitchell is healthy, which he is questionable currently, I think you got to run at the Eagles, kind of like the Commanders did when y'all lost your first game.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brian Robinson had 26 carries in that game. He didn't do a whole lot with them. He only had 86 yards, which isn't a great yards per carry, but it keeps that pass rush honest. They can't just rush the passer, on every down. They have to look for the run. So if we're running at those guys every, on every drive at least, I think that definitely plays into what we want to do. But that Eagles offense also, their strength is our weakness. They're able to get down the field with A.J. Brown, the Devonta Smith, even Quez Watkins. I'm worried about with his speed to get behind us because our weakness all season has been the big plays down the field. We lost both of our cornerbacks at some point this season. Ward has played very well on the outside, but our secondary is a little banged up. And Hufanga, who's a second-year player, actually was voted to the All-Pro team this year. Great player. He's a ball hawk. He goes after the ball. He's, anticipation. Unfortunately, though, sometimes he gets caught up with his eyes in the backfield and he'll let guys get behind him, which is what we got beat on a few times. And that's what I'm kind of worried about in this game. He needs to have eye discipline. He needs to, know his role, not over pursue, because the Eagles will set it up where they can get the ball downfield, especially with those play action fakes and Hurts rolling out and, those kind of things that the Eagles do. We can't let them get behind us. We got to just play back, play good defense, stop the run, and hopefully get a turnover or two to kind of help our offense.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, for the 49ers, I think they definitely have to try to run the football, like you said, right at the Eagles. And then, the Eagles have a very good, the very good defensive front. But the run game it's not as strong. It's gotten much stronger now with Jordan Davis back, but in the middle. But that's still the weak weakness. Like you can attack the linebackers, you can attack them right in that middle of the field or get to that second level. I think that's what 49ers will have to do with CMC and Elijah Mitchell. But they're gonna put pressure on Brock Purdy. As you said, that defensive front. I mean, they pressured Daniel Jones last week, 5 sacks, and I mean they was going right at him. They kept hitting him. He didn't have no time. So the Eagles are just, they fed off the crowd and with home field as well. So I think that's another thing. And I think Brock Purdy's gonna, if the running game is working, then that's where the play action can help too for Brock Purdy to take the pressure off of him. I'm worried about him on the road this time too, because he's been very comfortable at home, which has been great, playing in Seattle and beating Dallas, and now you said you go to Philly. I think that's to me is a little bit of concerning, but I'm worried on the Eagles side of the ball. I'm worried about the weapons that the 49ers have. You talk about the Eagles' weapons. 49ers got a lot. They got a lot of weapons. You said CMC and Elijah Mitchell and Brandon Ayuk and Debo and Kittle. We got to match up, and our secondary is great, is really good. So, but I'm a little bit worried about that. What do you think of that? Of the matchup, how the Eagles can match up against all the other weapons too, not just CMC and Elijah Mitchell, but all the rest of the weapons.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be a key as well, and I think they will scheme up some things to get the ball out of his hand quickly. I expect the Eagles to play a sort of tight coverage. If they play tight coverage and Brock Purdy can't find somebody, 1, 2, 3, there's nobody there. He needs to worry about the pressure at that point. Yeah. So I think they will scheme up some quick hitters, some quick slants, some receiver screens, even some tight end screens potentially. And I think the key for Brock Purdy, there was a game, and I can't think of the team that we played against, but they were getting pressure against him in that game, and he kept backpedaling. He would backpedal. And I think that's the wrong thing to do for a quarterback. Once you start backpedaling, that's it. You're done. Unless you're Jalen Hurts or a Kyler Murray, backpedaling is not going to work for you. He's got to find a way to step up into the pressure, let them go past him and get into the middle of that field where he can still look down the field. Because even last week with Daniel Jones, that's what y'all were doing with Daniel Jones. He kept backpedaling. He couldn't get around that pressure. He'd backpedal, and then all of a sudden it's a 12, 13, 14-yard loss, or he's throwing the ball away. You got to step up into that pressure, which is, I think, key for Purdy as a young quarterback, and then just to stay within himself. But as far as the Eagles matching up with the 49ers, the weapons, like you mentioned, they're all across the field there, and it's going to be tough. And Shanahan's a master at finding ways to get guys into open space. And it'll be a key not only to try to limit their opportunities, but then when they get the ball, make the tackle. Because the last couple of years, we've led the league in yards after the catch. George Kittle is one of the guys, yards after the catch. Debo always leads the league. I think he's like 9 yards after the catch, which is like far and away the best in the league. Ayuk is good about after the catch plays. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, yards after contact. So those are things that the Eagles have to do, is make those tackles and not let those 2-yard catches turn into 30-yard, 40-yard runs.
Yeah, because I think the game plan, as you said, with Shanahan, I don't think, like I said, it's not going to be those big, long passes, or it's going to be a methodical, kind of like you said, like the Commanders did against the Eagles, the one legitimate loss they really had, where it was, they just kept the Eagles offense off the field, but it was the run game. It was those short passes and play action, things like that. Because I don't think not too much you could beat with Bradbury and Slay back there. It's hard to attack them in the air. But I think if you get play action, and those linebackers get sucked in, get drawn in, it's over the top then. So, but it's gonna be an interesting matchup. What Shanahan has in store. I think on the Eagles side of the ball, against that stout 49ers defense, I think it's going to be hard for the Eagles to run the football, but the RPO can work. I think that's what's going to have to help the Eagles run game, because they might be able to stop Miles Sanders and Gainwell and Boston Scott, but now you're playing against a quarterback that can actually, he's a running quarterback that can get outside the pocket if he's healthy. If he's healthy as like he was last week, I think that could be a huge key where Jalen Hurts can get outside the pocket and make plays with his legs. And I don't know how the 49ers are going to defend that. I think they will stop the run, but I think now going against Jalen Hurts and that RPO, where he seems like he's been the master of that RPO now. Like he's reading the defense, he's drawing them in, and he's keeping the ball or he's handing it off, depending on how the defense plays. The scheme is he could run on the outside, or he keep it, or he just hands it off, or it's now he's getting better at throwing the football too. And I have a feeling AJ Brown might have a big game this week too. What do you think of the Eagles on that side of the ball? That stout 49ers defense.
Yeah, that's definitely the key. And I think that the key to us is to basically mix it up. I think, everyone talks about keep contained, don't let them get outside. I think we can definitely do that, keep contained. But at the same time, I think we also sometimes we'll have to have a spy. And I think sometimes we'll have to blitz him. I think it's going to be a little bit of everything, and it'll be disguising it. And can he diagnose what the defense is before the snap of the play? Because, I think when you have those quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts or Kyler Murray, who's in our division, we see twice a year. You let them get outside, and then all of a sudden they're one-on-one against, whoever's out there. They can pass it, they can run it. That person's kind of in the no man's zone. He can't, if he goes up for the tackle, throws it over the top. If he falls back in the coverage, then, Hurts is getting 15 yards down the field. So keeping contained would be definitely a big thing. I think sometimes even Bosa, as great as he is, will take that inside route to get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
As soon as he does that, it's outside for Jalen Hurts, and he's going to get 20 yards on the carry. So definitely key to keep him in the pocket. If I had to pick my poison, if I want Hurts to beat me in the pocket or Hurts beat me on the outside, I want Hurts to beat me in the pocket. If he drops back 30 times, 40 times this game and just stays in the pocket and we lose, I will take that loss, because I think that's kind of how we have to play it, I think.
Yeah, and I think that, like, a lot of times the Eagles, how they start games, they try to start with the pass, set up the run, and I think like they still want to run. They still want to. Sirianni he loves to run the football, and he's going to probably realize, okay, this is going to be tough to run right after San Francisco. Their strength of that front seven, so we're going to have, like I said, mix it up. And I think they're going to try to pass. I think they're going to try to go pass heavy. They're going to try to get AJ Brown because there's been, there's that chatter that, he wants the football and, and everything. So I think they're going to
get greased.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So they're going to want him. They're going to want him to get the ball. I think Hurts is going to get him the ball. But you said Devonta Smith and Goddard and Miles Sanders, we got weapons too. So like I said, this is an even matchup, and I think it's going to be a close game. What's your prediction? I'm going Eagles 23-16 to win, but I think it's going to be a really close game.
So I went on a podcast on Thursday night. It's my second time on the podcast. Been doing the same thing, talking about the 49ers. And I actually picked the Eagles. As much as I hate to do it, I'm a betting man and I'm a smart guy. Yeah. But I think being on the road, I think Brock Purdy is going to show his inexperience there. Yeah. I think it comes down to Brock Purdy having to win the game. It'll be like a 6 or 7 point game. It'll be the fourth quarter. It'll be, all right, Brock Purdy, you got to go 80 yards to win or tie this game. And he's not going to be able to do it. And, nothing against him. I think he's going to be great. He's been playing awesome so far this year, and nothing that he does in this game is going to ruin that. I just don't think if we have to put the ball in his hands, on his shoulders, and say, go win the game, I don't think he's there yet. And I think being on the road is going to kind of hurt him a little bit. So I've actually picked the Eagles to win this game in a close one. It's like going to be like 24-17, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I got 23-16. And I agree. I think it's going to be very close. Now, the Eagles jump ahead quickly like they did against the Giants. I don't think they will, but if they did, and then that's even more pressure for Purdy to make plays and then feed right into the Eagles. If they jump 14-0, 21-3, something like that, and I think that's what the Eagles want to do. If they can punch them in the mouth, they can really put the pressure on Purdy. But last one on Purdy, since now that you've seen it for the last 6 to 8 weeks or whatever it's been, is it your QB1 going into next year now with Trey Lance coming back too? What do you think? Is that did Brock Purdy earn that number one?
He definitely did. I think he earned it. He could definitely lose it. He could come out, week 1, week 2, week 3 and look terrible, and Lance can take over that role. But I think week 1, he's done enough that he needs to at least get the opportunity. Okay, you are our QB1 going into the season. Yeah. He showed what he can do. I mean, from the time he took over as a starter, he's led the league in passer rating for quarterbacks right now. He only has 2 turnovers. I think he has like 13 or 14 touchdowns. You can't deny what he's been able to do. I know there hasn't been a lot of great teams that he's played against, but you only can play the teams that they put on your schedule, and he's shown up on all of them. So I think going into the year, luckily they're both, unlike when Lance came into the NFL and we were like, is it Jimmy Garoppolo or is it Lance? Garoppolo had that huge contract, so it made it a little bit more difficult to make the decision. Both of them were on rookie contracts, Both of them are inexpensive quarterbacks. So if we have to put Lance on the bench and put Brock Purdy in there, and we're not putting this $28 million quarterback on the bench like we were with Garoppolo. So I do think that it's easier for us to make the decision for the fact that, both quarterbacks are fairly inexpensive right now.
I agree. I think Purdy definitely deserves to be the QB1. And as long as he got all those weapons and that solid defense, they'll be fine. And the Shanahan calling the plays, they'll be fine. So let's get into before I let you go, let's get into Bengals and Chiefs rematch from last year's AFC Championship game, where the Bengals came back, and it's back in Kansas City, came back. That was a weird second half of the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Very, very weird. They had a 21-3 lead and then just blew it. Yeah, now Joe Burrow and their young rivalry, I guess you want to say, is 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes. What do you think? You think it's going to be the same results, or Patrick Mahomes, who's playing on a high sprained ankle as well? There's concerns there. He said he's going to play, so I mean, I wouldn't doubt he wouldn't. But do you think the Chiefs finally fight the ship against the Bengals, or do the Bengals pull another win and get to the Super Bowl?
So I think it really comes down to Patrick Mahomes and how he's feeling. I know we've seen some tape of him in practice. He looks good. He's moving around. But you know what? When they're practicing, no one's hitting Mahomes. You know what I mean? They're not hitting him in practice.
Right,
so,
right.
When the Bengals get there, they're going to be hitting him. Can that foot hold up? If there's a low tackle at his feet, he likes to roll out and those kind of things. If he twists it the wrong way, how's that going to affect him going forward? Can he get the ball down the field? I can't remember if it's his left foot or if his right foot, but if it's his plant foot, it'll be difficult to get the ball down the field. Do I think the Chiefs can still win this game with the gimpy Patrick Mahomes? I do. I think the Bengals are a fun team to watch, and they've been fun all week leading up to this game. I don't know if you saw it, but the Cincinnati mayor came out and said that they needed to DNA test Patrick Mahomes to see if Joe Burrow really was his daddy. So so it's been a lot of talk back and forth mainly from the Bengals side of things, which could come back to bite them. If they end up losing this game, it'll be that they have this bulletin board material, and the Chiefs were extra hyped to get out there. Mm-hmm. The one thing I will say with Patrick Mahomes, if he is not able to do the things that he can do normally, it will be a lot tougher for him because he doesn't have that Tyreek Hill game breaker. He doesn't have that guy that he can go to that can just take it to the house at any point. I mean, Travis Kelce is great. Don't get me wrong. And he can do some great things, but you can't just have Travis Kelce in a bunch of, average to mid receivers like Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and beat a team like the Bengals unless one of those guys step up big. But Mahomes has got to do Mahomes things for them to win this game.
I agree. I think, and I still like the Chiefs because I still like even 85% Mahomes over most quarterbacks. But you said you can't discount Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, and even that defense too. They've held Mahomes in check for the most part through the 3 games they played. The last 3 games that they played. But I feel like Mahomes now. They said I think they're going to be extra motivated. He's going to play. Like I said, with that high ankle sprain. It just depends on. The game plan is going to have to change. I think Andy Reid and them are going to have to make short passes. They're going to do short passes, or they're going to rely on their run game because Mahomes, he's more dangerous when he's outside the pocket. He's more dangerous when he can get those those plays where he's just running around or just trying to find someone open. You said I think Travis Kelce will have a big game, but I think McKinnon will have a big game too because it's going to be one of those type of games where they're going to probably sustain long drives, not those big. They take those big shots like they normally do because Patrick Mahomes will be very limited. But on the other side of the ball, if they can pressure that Cincinnati offensive line, unlike what Buffalo couldn't do it. That's why Joe Burrow, if he gets time, he's gonna pick you apart. I mean, that's just the way he's been over his whole career. But if they could get pressure on Joe Burrow, which we know that line's still decimated, still not as good as what it could be, then the Chiefs might have a really good shot. But it could be, it comes out to Patrick Mahomes in the end. I think he'll do just enough. I got it like 24-20 Chiefs to win this game. What do you got? Do you have Chiefs winning or the Bengals?
I had the Bengals winning at the same score, 24-20, I think.
Okay.
I want it to be a high-scoring game, but I don't think it's going to be. I think both teams are going to kind of play it close to the vest and you try to keep the other offense off the field. And because of that, I think it'll be a lower-scoring game. So 24-20 Bengals.
Yeah, it's gonna be another good game too. And he said if the Bengals, if Joe Burrow has time, he's gonna pick that Kansas City Chiefs defense apart. And with the weapons he has too on the outside as well with Chase and Higgins and Boyd. and Hayden Hurst and and Mixon. They're going to mix and P Ryan. They got a lot, and I think they're going to mix it up. They might run the football. They might go to the run with that two-headed monster because I think P Ryan's going to play a lot like he did against Buffalo. So they'll keep that all. They'll keep the Chiefs offense on the bench. You think Kadarius Toney, could he make a difference? Like they got him for this reason, and we'll maybe transition to DFS. Kadarius, and that'll be the last topic. DFS, Kadarius Toney. Do you think he could make an impact? Because you said they need some weapons. I don't think Juju's the answer, or MVS. I think it's got to be Kadarius Toney and McKinnon maybe. What do you think of that? Do you think Kadarius Toney could be the deciding factor, be that weapon?
Absolutely, actually, because you were rolling into DFS, and he's one of the guys that I'm, because and in a 2-game slate, you got to be different. You got to find guys that are going to be low owned, and I think Kadarius Toney, we've seen it when he's healthy, he can be a game breaker. He can definitely make people miss. He can get down the field. He can take it to the house at any point. So he is that kind of receiver. If they last week tried to get him involved, he had 7 targets and a carry out of the backfield. So I think that they want to get the ball in his hands, and he can definitely be that X factor for not only for the Chiefs but also for your DFS lineups. You plug him in. I think he's 3,700 on DraftKings. So cheap plug in there where you can pay up elsewhere. So yeah, he's one of my favorite guys as far as DFS goes this week to be that unsung hero that no one's looking at.
Okay, and then as you said, we transition. What type of strategies, like you said, with a 2-game slate, you got to be different. And I know you brought on the DFS DraftKings Facebook page. You put the percentages of ownership out to. It's got to be some high ownership for like the quarterbacks and things like that. If you just quickly run down some of their favorite picks and strategy, and then we'll go from there.
So yeah, strategy-wise, like I mentioned, you're going to have to be different. So I wrote down a bunch of names that aren't going to be high-owned that can definitely be the hero for you. One guy from that Bengals offense that's sort of been overlooked is Tyler Boyd. Boyd, we've seen it before. When Jamar Chase was hurt, I think he had a game where he had 155 yards receiving and a touchdown. So the potential is definitely there. If Burrow looks downfield and Higgins is covered and Burrow and Chase is covered, Boyd can have a big game there. He's cheap at 3,800. I mentioned earlier that I'm afraid of Quez Watkins for your Eagles. He's your home run hitter. He's the guy that no one's looking at. They're going to probably have at least one trick play where they try to get him the ball down the field, and he can make that huge catch. I think he did it against us last year as well. He's not used very often, so obviously if you're using him, you're completely punting him because he gets maybe 1 or 2 targets a game. But at 3,100, if he catches one of those 2 targets for a touchdown, then you're going to be golden. And then tight end, I think Hayden Hurst is my favorite tight end as far as cheap guys go. He's of the 4 tight ends, he's probably the least known or the least as far as fantasy goes, the least owned player. And I think Hayden Hurst at 3,000, I think he had 7 targets last week and scored a touchdown. So that's nothing to sneeze about. At $3,000, he's the cheapest tight end on the slate. So he's one of my favorite players as well. And then looking at some of the guys on my team, I mentioned earlier Elijah Mitchell, and I think our game plan is going to be to run at the Eagles. And I think Elijah Mitchell is more built for that than Christian McCaffrey is. He's a little bit bigger guy. So if he's healthy, you got to make sure and check his health. If he's healthy and they're going to run him against the Eagles, I do like Elijah Mitchell to not only, get 50, 60, 70, 80 yards in the middle of the field there. I think he could be the one to score a touchdown as well. So he's pretty cheap on FanDuel. I got him at 5,600. I don't know what his price is on DraftKings yet. And then Samaje Perine, you mentioned Samaje Perine as well. He had 12 touches last week. And if he gets that kind of usage again, he's had good games against the Chiefs before. He's not afraid of the Chiefs. I think he scored a touchdown in their last game. I think he had 22 carries because I think Mixon missed the last game. So Samaje Perine is another guy that no one's looking at that could potentially have a big game as well. So and as far as strategy goes, I mean, it's really with 2-game slate, there's not a whole lot of strategy that you can really do. You're going to own guys. All your guys are going to be highly owned. You're going to find the right combination. But one thing I've been suggesting is with these 4 tight ends is if you go double tight end, if you put 1 tight end at your tight end spot and then 1 at your flex spot, maybe you go Hayden Hurst as your tight end and then Travis Kelce as your flex. That's one way to be different. That's going to be a very loan-owned combination. And we've seen tight ends in the playoffs and these kind of games where it's close to the vest and teams don't want to make the big turnovers, where tight ends get a ton of work. And if you have 2 tight ends and no one else seems to have 2 tight ends in your tournament, then you have the advantage there for sure.
I like that. I mean, you know, we've been playing DFS for a long time, and I like the 2 tight end. I play it anyway sometimes in certain lineups. I don't do it like on 80% of my lineups when I'm putting a lot of lineups in, but I like the 2 tight ends because you said that you can go Hayden Hurst, Travis Kelce, or you can go Goddard. I think Goddard's going to probably have pretty decent games. You can go
Absolutely.
Goddard, Kelce, or Goddard, Hurst, or whatever.
Or if you really want to pay up, go Kittle and Kelce. If you really want to pay up,
yeah, exactly. I kind of like that. And I like all the other players like P. Ryan, and because you like you said, you got to be different, but you're gonna have the same quarterbacks. It's just the way it is because there's 4. There's only 4 playing. So
right.
If you play a lot of lineups, yeah, you might have a 50% on Jalen Hurts, but that's if you're going to go with that and you stack them with AJ Brown or Quez Watkins or Devonta Smith or whatever, you're gonna have that. So it just got to be different in other spots. So I totally agree. And thanks for Damien for jumping on. He said, "Let me go set my lineup now." He said, "Yeah, set it up, man, because you got to get in." So I know they said. So Geoff, I know you got to run. So again, I can't thank you enough, man, for coming on. I said I had to get a 49ers fan in here and a guy that covers 49ers and everything too. So. Thanks to Ben for jumping on. He said good morning to both of us. So appreciate him jumping on. Yeah. So let everyone know before you go, let everyone know where they can follow you, follow your work and the website and all that.
All right. Yeah. So you can follow me on Twitter at Geoff Lambert 77. That's Geoff spelled Geoff. All of our content, we got about 20-ish writers on staff. So our written content's at Goingfor2.com. We got about 9 or 10 hosts that do shows every day of the week. And you can find that on YouTube. Just Goingfor2 Live, Goingfor2 all one word, and then live. You can find us on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're on Twitch, Facebook Live. We're on all the major podcast networks to Spotify, iTunes. Go check us out. We do a lot of dynasty stuff in the off season. So if you're into dynasty football, come find us. We'll do a lot of rookie previews, getting ready for the NFL draft kind of stuff. So if you're into that kind of thing, come find us over there at Goingfor2 Live.
Yeah, Goingfor2 Live, Goingfor2.com. Big fan of the site. You know, I'm actually part of the actual site and get all my advice too. So I really appreciate it, Geoff, man. Thanks a lot. And like I said, I know you got to run. So good luck tomorrow and everything too. So hopefully we'll have some good games and we'll see if our predictions are right and how close we can be. And I know I'm in that fantasy league. So I can't wait to jump in and take that money.
All right, man. You have a good day. And good luck tomorrow. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. Appreciate it. All right. That was Geoff Lambert, man. Goingfor2.com, Goingfor2 Live as well. He has his own website, podcast. I'm part of the Goingfor2 group. We have a Twitter group where I get some of my advice for fantasy lineups, DFS, and all that. So they do, a lot of football. I know they dabble into a little basketball as well, but mostly football, dynasty, DFS, and other things. So follow Geoff, follow his work, Goingfor2.com, and follow him on Twitter. He's very active and always, like I say, he's got over 20 plus writers. I've had a few of them on the show before, and he's got the Goingfor2 Live podcast network as well. So check out all the material there. So yeah, if you got into DFS and all that. So for those for those that missed the predictions for the NFC and AFC championship games, I have the Eagles winning a close game. I have them winning 23-16 against the 49ers. I think the Eagles they'll do just enough. I think they'll pressure Purdy. They'll pressure him into maybe a turnover too, even though he doesn't turn the ball over much. But our defensive line, our defense has had 70 plus sacks, and four of the defensive line has 10 plus sacks or more. So I think that's what's going to be one of the keys because both defenses are great. San Francisco's got the best defense in the league, but they can be attacked in the air in that secondary. So I think the Eagles are going to go pass heavy first to set up the run because it's going to be hard to run against the 49ers. But the equalizer and the weapon that the 49ers got to contain is Jalen Hurts, where I think they will play well. I think the 49ers will play well against the run against the 49ers or against the Eagles because that's their strength defensively. But I believe the Eagles can attack them in the air, and then Jalen Hurts is the deciding factor because he's a guy that you have to account for running. And, I don't know if the 49ers will be able to stop him. And he's part of he's one of the main the main weapons on the Eagles in their run game. So got the Eagles winning that in a close one, 23-16. I think A.J. Brown has a big game. I think they're going to take a couple. They're going to take some shots. They got to take shots against the 49ers defense to kind of loosen them up and get going. So Eagles win. They get to the Super Bowl. Yes, I'll be biased a little bit too as an Eagles fan. So I hope they do win. And and then the AFC game, which is at 6:30 tomorrow, the AFC Championship game. You got the Bengals, Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that the Chiefs pulled this in a close one too. I got a 24-20 Chiefs. I know Patrick Mahomes is only 80-85% healthy, high ankle sprain, but I think they're looking at the Bengals, and the Bengals are talking a lot, chirping a lot, and in Joe Burrow's young career, he's 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes, so he has that over him. So I think the Chiefs will be motivated. I think even at 85% Patrick Mahomes is still better than most quarterbacks, if not all quarterbacks, just about. But I think they do enough. I think they can get to Joe Burrow, and if they got to pressure him against his decimated offensive line. But if the Chiefs can't pressure Joe Burrow, he's going to pick them apart, and I think they win. But I do have the Chiefs winning in a close one, 24-20. I think they even with that high ankle sprain, I think the Chiefs will the game plan will be running the football, short passes to Kelsey, and mixing it up, maybe having long plays. I don't think they're going to go for the home run hitters to have Mahomes run around and do all the things that he does usually when healthy. I think they're going to try to limit his movement and with the game plan of having like 15, try to do like 12 to 15 play drives just to keep him, from holding the football and keep him from getting sacked and running around so much. But I got the Chiefs winning 24-20. So I got Eagles Chiefs in the Super Bowl. See how that goes. I had one more question. Do you think the Eagles can force the 49ers into a pass-heavy offense and make Purdy try to beat them? I think that is the game plan. That's from my Real Deal brother. Thanks again, Damian Adams, for tuning in. Yeah, I believe that the Eagles are going to have to force the 49ers into a pass-heavy. If the Eagles can jump ahead, I know it's a different team. They're playing the 49ers, a great defense. When they played the Giants last week, they jumped on the Giants like quickly, 21-0, very quickly. If they could do that, 14-0, that will force Purdy to be pass heavy. But I think the 49ers game plan, they want to run the football. They want to run at the Eagles with McCaffrey, with Elijah Mitchell. I think that's the game plan because that will keep pressure, and Debo. And I think that'll keep pressure off of Brock Purdy. But the Eagles can force. I think they will force Purdy because they're going to pressure. The Eagles are going to put pressure. I actually think they're going to blitz too. The Eagles don't blitz much. They just go with their front four. As I said, the defensive line, 4 of the players had 10 plus sacks, 10 or more sacks. So that's the Eagles' game plan. It's to force Brock Purdy to pass, get them in those third and long situations, and get them to be a pass-heavy team because the 49ers' strength is run the football, play action, over the top with Ayuk, with Debo Samuel. But I think they're going to try to utilize and mix it up with the weapons with CMC and Debo. I think Debo's going to have he's going to get a lot of. I think he's going to get a lot of targets. He's going to get a lot of carries. I think Debo is the main weapon that the Eagles are going to have to really contend. CMC is tremendous, one of the top running backs in the league. Elijah Mitchell was a good running back, and Shanahan's going to call a really good game. But I think he's going to mix it up, but the Eagles are going to try to force Brock Purdy to beat them, and I think that's the way to beat the 49ers this week is the Eagles force them because if the Eagles do force them to the 49ers to a pass heavy offense, I think that leads right to the Eagles' strengths, their secondary, which we are especially on the outside with Bradbury and Slay. They're just waiting for Purdy to make a mistake, and I think they're going to try to force him to do that, and the pressure from the defensive line of the Eagles. So it's going to be a great weekend. I cannot wait. I'm very, very excited. Not going to the game personally. Tickets were way too expensive here in Philly. It was, I think, the cheapest ones. The last I saw yesterday was like $650. I'm not paying that. And then, me and my wife would go. That's $1,200. That's a trip. That's a vacation. Actually, that's a plane. They're going on a plane. We just went to Vegas over Christmas. We paid about that going to Vegas for 4 days, let alone going to a game. I would love to be there, but I'm going to be right in my home, in my warm home with heat. It's not supposed to be too bad. It's supposed to be in the 50s here, but I'm going to be right here at 3:00 watching the Eagles and the 49ers and watching the next game, Bengals and Chiefs. So, I'll be watching the game right from my couch and having some good food and some good football. So, but thanks everyone that tuned in. I really appreciate it. Thanks everyone that tuned in and all the people in the comments. Really appreciate y'all and appreciate everyone that's tuning in on YouTube. Also, who's listening to on Spreaker, Roku. Don't forget, download the app. That's where you can get the entire BS3 TV network, BS3 TV, Roku app, the Roku channel. If you have a Roku device, if you got the Roku channel, BS3 TV is the app. You can get all of our shows, the BS3 Live, BS3TVLive.com. It's the website. Like I said, we got our full arsenal of shows that we have, from sports to TV and movie reviews to comedy, cooking, travel. We got a little bit of everything. So if you want to just tune into all the BS3 network as well. So you can also find my show there. Find it at Get The Real Deal on Twitter, The Real Deal with Courtney Harden. Just Google that and you'll get all the shows and all the great guests I have. So enjoy the games. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Damien. I appreciate you all always, man. Thank you, my Real Deal bro. Appreciate it. And that's a wrap for the show. I know on the BS3 Network, we have the NFC East, the NFC Beast podcast coming up tonight on the BS3 Network. So check that out. I'm going to see if I can jump in tonight. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern time. They're going to go over the matchups of the weekend and probably some other off-season things and a lot of news and everything. So just stay locked in. We got you locked in. Just stay locked in for all the things and everything too. So before I go, last prediction. That's what I said. Eagles versus Chiefs Super Bowl. That's my prediction as well. Again, thanks everyone tuned in. Really appreciate it. Until next time, enjoy the games. Peace. And as always, God bless.